Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Easy English Podcast. I am Hannah, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Alex. How are you today, Alex?
Hey, Hannah. I am doing great, thank you. And I am so excited for today's episode. We have a very special story for our listeners. It is a slow, cozy story about a family, a big dinner, and a very unexpected surprise.
Yes, today we are talking about cooking, family, and what happens when things do not go according to plan. This is a fantastic episode for our level A1 to B2 learners because we will practice a lot of useful everyday English, especially kitchen and cooking vocabulary.
That is right. Before we start our story, let us introduce our main characters. In our story, we have the Miller family. There is the dad, Thomas, the mom, Sarah, and their two teenage children, Lily and Leo.
They sound like a lovely family, Alex, and today is a very special day for them. It is Thomas and Sarah's wedding anniversary. To celebrate, they decided to cook a beautiful, fancy dinner together at home.
A home-cooked meal is the best way to celebrate. What was on the menu, Hannah? It sounds delicious already.
It was indeed. They planned a 3-course meal. For the starter, they wanted to make a warm, creamy tomato soup. A starter, by the way, is the first small dish you eat before the main meal. Some people also call it an appetizer.
Tomato soup is perfect, especially if it is a bit chilly outside. And what about the main course? The main course is the largest, most important part of the meal.
For the main course, they plan to roast a whole chicken in the oven with garlic and fresh herbs, served with crispy roasted potatoes. To roast means to cook food, like meat or vegetables, in an oven using dry heat.
Oh, my mouth is watering already. Roast chicken and potatoes is a classic. It takes some time to cook, though. You have to preheat the oven first. To preheat means to heat the oven to the correct temperature before you put the food inside.
Exactly. And finally, for dessert, Lily and Leo promised to make a chocolate cake. Dessert, spelled with double S, is the sweet dish you eat at the end of the meal. Do not confuse it with desert, spelled with one S, which is a hot, dry place with lots of sand.
That is a very important spelling tip, Hannah. Dessert has 2 S's because you always want a second helping of sweet food. That is how I remember it.
I love that trick, Alex. I will definitely remember that. So let us set the scene. It is a rainy Friday evening. Outside, the wind is blowing and rain is tapping gently against the windows. But inside the Miller family's kitchen, it is warm, bright, and busy.
Yes, everyone has a job. This is great teamwork. Thomas is at the cutting board. He is chopping onions and dicing carrots for the soup. Let us look at those 2 words, chop and dice. To chop means to cut something into pieces with a knife. To dice means to cut food into very small square pieces, like tiny cubes.
Yes, dicing takes a bit more precision. While Thomas is dicing the carrots, Sarah is preparing the chicken. She is rubbing it with olive oil, salt, pepper, and rosemary. She is also peeling the potatoes. To peel means to remove the outer skin of a fruit or vegetable.
Right. You usually use a potato peeler or a small knife for that. Meanwhile, Lily and Leo are in charge of the chocolate cake. They are standing near the kitchen island. Lily is measuring the flour and sugar, and Leo is stirring the cake batter in a large mixing bowl.
To stir is a very common cooking verb. It means to mix ingredients by moving a spoon around in a circular pattern. Leo is stirring very carefully so he does not spill any chocolate.
The kitchen is filled with lovely sounds. The gentle hum of the refrigerator, the bubbling of the tomato soup in a pot on the stove, and the sound of laughter. To hum means to make a low, continuous, vibrating sound.
And let us not forget the stove. The stove is the large appliance in the kitchen where you have the burners on top to boil or fry food, and usually the oven underneath to bake or roast.
So the soup is simmering on the stove. To simmer means to cook food gently in liquid just below the boiling point. You can see small bubbles forming slowly, but it is not boiling rapidly.
This is the perfect way to make soup because it lets all the delicious flavors blend together. The chicken is now in the oven, and the delicious smell of roasting garlic is beginning to fill the house.
It sounds absolutely perfect. The table is beautifully set with their best plates, shiny forks and knives, and tall glasses. Thomas even found some nice napkins. Everything is ready for a wonderful, cozy celebration.
Yes, everything was going perfectly. The cake batter was ready to go into the oven, the soup was smelling wonderful, and the chicken was halfway cooked.
But then, suddenly, at exactly 6:30 in the evening, snap, the lights went out.
Oh no, what a terrible moment for that to happen. 1 second, the kitchen is bright and warm, and the next second, everything is pitch black. This is a great phrase to know, pitch black. It means completely dark, with absolutely no light at all. You cannot even see your own hand in front of your face.
Exactly, pitch black. It comes from pitch, which is a very dark black substance made from coal or wood. When the power goes out like that, we call it a power outage or a blackout. A blackout is when a whole area suddenly loses electricity. What do you think the family did first, Hannah?
Well, first, there is always that moment of complete shock. You just freeze. Thomas and his sister Lily probably gasped. To gasp means to catch your breath loudly because you are surprised or scared. Like this.
Yes, that is a perfect example of a gasp. And their dad, Michael, probably said something like, "Oh, great," or "You have got to be kidding me." We often use these phrases when something annoying happens unexpectedly. "You have got to be kidding me" is a common way to express disbelief and frustration.
Absolutely. It is a very natural reaction. Then, of course, the mother, Sarah, probably tried to stay calm and said, "Don't panic, everyone. It is just a power outage. Nobody move until we get some light." In a dark kitchen full of hot pots and sharp knives, staying still is a very smart idea.
Very smart. You do not want to trip over a chair or bump into the hot stove. So the first goal is to find emergency tools. Hannah, what are the most common things you look for when the lights go out?
The first thing is definitely a flashlight. In British English, people often call this a torch. It is a small, portable light that runs on batteries. You can hold it in your hand and point the beam of light wherever you need to see. These days, of course, most of us also have a flashlight on our smartphones.
Yes, thank goodness for smartphones. Michael probably reached into his pocket and turned on his phone's flashlight. But a phone battery might not last forever, so they needed to find the real emergency drawer. Every house should have an emergency drawer or a utility drawer where you keep tools, extra batteries, and of course, candles.
Candles are wonderful. They do not just give light, they also make the room feel cozy and warm. But to use candles, you need something to light them with. You need matches or a lighter. Let us spell those. MATCHES for matches, and LIGHTER for a lighter.
Great spelling, Hannah. A match is a short, thin piece of wood or cardboard with a special tip that catches fire when you scrape it against a rough surface. A lighter is a small plastic or metal device that creates a small flame when you press a button. Michael carefully guided his family to the living room couch while Sarah searched the kitchen drawers.
Can you imagine trying to find matches in a pitch-black kitchen drawer? You have to feel around very slowly. You might touch a spoon, a rubber band, a bottle opener, and finally, yes, the small cardboard box of matches.
That is a relief. Sarah strikes a match. To strike a match is to rub it quickly against the side of the box to make it light up. Suddenly, a tiny, warm orange flame appears. It casts a soft glow on Sarah's face. The word glow refers to a soft, warm light. It is not bright like a light bulb, but it is enough to see.
I love that word, glow. It sounds so peaceful, even in a mini crisis.
Sarah uses the match to light 3 large candles. She places them safely on the kitchen counter, away from anything that could catch fire. Now they can finally see each other's faces.
They can see, but they also see the big problem. The electric oven has turned off. The digital timer on the stove is completely dead. The kitchen is quiet because the hum of the refrigerator has stopped. There is only the sound of the rain outside and the flickering of the candles.
The flickering. That is another lovely word. To flicker means to shine unsteadily. The candle flames move up and down, making shadows dance on the walls. But wait, what about the food? The chicken was only halfway cooked in the electric oven, and the cake batter is just sitting there in the bowl, unbaked.
This is a major cooking emergency. If you leave a half-cooked chicken in a warm oven that is slowly cooling down, it is not safe to eat, and it will certainly not taste good. And the soup on the stove? Well, luckily, their stove runs on gas, not electricity.
Oh, that is a massive stroke of luck. A gas stove uses a real flame to cook. Even if the electronic ignition, the little spark that automatically lights the gas, does not work because of the power outage, you can still light the burners manually using a match.
Exactly. You turn on the gas dial slowly, and you carefully hold a lit match near the burner. Whoosh! A ring of blue flames appears. This means they can still use the stovetop. The soup can continue to simmer. But the oven is a different story. The oven is strictly electric.
So the chicken is trapped in a cold, dark oven. This is where the family has to get creative. They cannot just give up and order pizza because all the local restaurants probably lost power too. They have to find a way to finish their special dinner using only what they have in the house.
And remember, it is also getting colder inside. Without electricity, the heating system in the house is not working. The wind is howling outside and the temperature is dropping. It is time for a family council around the candlelit table to figure out a plan.
A family council around the candlelit table? That sounds so cozy, but also a little bit stressful. They need to act quickly before the house gets too cold and before everyone gets too hungry.
When we need to find clever ways to solve a problem with only the things we have around us, we use a great word, resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is the ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. It is about being creative when things do not go as planned.
I love that word, resourcefulness, and our family in the story has plenty of it. The dad, Leo, suddenly remembers something. He snaps his fingers and says, "Wait, I have my old camping gear in the garage."
He runs to the garage with his flashlight to search through the dusty shelves. And guess what he brings back? A portable camping stove.
Oh, a camping stove. That is a brilliant idea. A portable stove is a small, light stove that you can carry with you when you go hiking or camping. It usually runs on a small canister of gas. But wait, Alex, is it safe to use a camping stove inside the house? Usually camping stoves are for outdoor use only because of the fumes.
That is an excellent point, Hannah, and a very important safety tip for our listeners. You should never use a regular outdoor camping stove inside a closed room because of carbon monoxide. But fortunately, Leo has a specific type of indoor-safe butane stove, and he decides to set it up right next to the open window in the kitchen just to be extra safe and get plenty of fresh air. They open the window just a crack, which means they open it a very small amount.
Ah, to open a crack is a wonderful everyday English expression. It means you do not open the window completely, just a tiny bit to let some fresh air slide in. So they have the camping stove set up. But how do you cook a whole chicken on a tiny single-burner camping stove? You cannot fit a whole chicken in a small frying pan.
Exactly. You cannot roast a chicken on a camping stove, so they have to adapt. To adapt means to change your behavior or your ideas to fit a new situation. The mom, Sarah, realizes they need to change the plan. She says, "We cannot roast this chicken. We have to deconstruct it." Now, to deconstruct is a fancy word, but in cooking, it just means to take something apart. She takes a sharp knife and carefully cuts the half-cooked chicken into small pieces.
That is so smart. By cutting the chicken into small pieces, it will cook much faster. When you have small pieces of meat, you do not need an oven. You can cook them quickly in a pan. What is the verb for cooking things quickly in a pan with a little bit of hot oil, Alex?
That verb is to saute. Let's spell that for our listeners. S-A-U-T-E. It comes from French, but we use it in English all the time. To saute means to cook food quickly in a little bit of hot oil or butter while tossing or stirring it. So Sarah decides to saute the chicken pieces. She heats up some olive oil in a large skillet, throws in the chicken, and adds some garlic and herbs.
I can almost smell it. The smell of garlic and chicken cooking in butter or oil is one of the best smells in the world. And cooking this way turns the kitchen into a warm, inviting place again. The sizzling sound of the chicken in the pan replaces the silence of the dark house. Sizzling is a great word. It is the hissing sound that food makes when it is frying in hot fat.
Yes, sizzle is an example of onomatopoeia, which means the word sounds like the actual noise it describes. Sizzle, hiss, pop. While Sarah is sauteing the chicken, the kids, Maya and Toby, want to help too. They want to be part of the cooking team, but since they cannot use the electric mixer, they have to do things by hand.
This is a great chance for teamwork. Teamwork is when a group of people works together cooperatively to achieve a goal. What can the kids do to help with the meal? Remember, they still have that cake batter that was sitting in the bowl, unbaked.
Well, they realize they cannot bake a cake without an oven. But Toby says, hey, what if we make pancakes instead? Since they already have flour, eggs, sugar, and milk in the kitchen, they decide to make a simple pancake batter from scratch. To make something from scratch means to make it from the very basic ingredients without using a pre-made mix.
I love making pancakes from scratch. It is so easy and tastes much better. So the kids become the batter masters. Maya holds the bowl, and Toby uses a manual whisk to mix the ingredients together. A whisk is a kitchen tool made of curved wire loops used for whipping eggs or mixing liquids. Since they don't have electricity for a hand mixer, Toby has to use his own muscle power to whisk the batter until it is smooth.
He is getting a real workout. His arm is getting tired, so Maya takes over. They are taking turns. To take turns means that one person does an activity for a while, and then another person does it, so everyone shares the work. This is a perfect example of teamwork.
Exactly. When they are whisking, they are laughing and telling jokes in the dark. The fear of the storm outside is completely gone because they are focusing on their creative teamwork. Now, let's think about the soup. It is simmering on the gas stove. What does simmer mean exactly, Alex? We mentioned it earlier, but let's explain it.
To simmer means to cook food gently in liquid that is just below the boiling point. You can see small, slow bubbles popping on the surface, but it is not boiling rapidly. Simmering is perfect for soup because it lets all the flavors blend together beautifully over time. The warm, savory steam from the soup is filling the kitchen, making everyone feel cozy.
And what about the table? They need to set the table, but it is completely dark in the dining room. How do they handle that?
Well, this is where they get really creative with their lighting. They don't just use candles. Leo remembers he has a few headlamps from his camping gear. A headlamp is a small flashlight that you wear on a band around your head. So Leo, Sarah, Maya, and Toby all put on headlamps. They look like a group of explorers searching for treasure in a cave.
Oh, that is so funny. Picture that in your mind. A family sitting around a dinner table inside their own house, wearing camping headlamps just to see their plates. They must look like miners looking for gold right there in the dining room. But honestly, it is also very practical because your hands are completely free. You can hold your spoon and your fork without trying to balance a flashlight under your chin.
Exactly. It turns a little problem into a big game. And eventually, they decide to make the atmosphere even better. Sarah finds some old, thick-scented candles in the living room closet. They light them and place them in the middle of the table. And then they turn off their headlamps. Suddenly, the room is filled with a soft, warm, golden glow. Let's talk about that word, glow. A glow is a soft, warm light that comes from something, like a candle or a small fire. It is not bright or sharp. It is gentle.
I love that word, glow. It sounds warm just saying it. And this gentle light completely changes how the room feels. It makes the space feel incredibly cozy. Cozy is one of my favorite English words. It means warm, comfortable, and safe, especially when it is cold or stormy outside. For example, you can say, I love sitting by the fireplace with a hot cup of tea on a rainy day. It feels so cozy. Or in this story, the candlelit dining room is the definition of cozy.
Yes, cozy is the perfect word here. The contrast between the cold, windy storm outside and the warm, candlelit room inside makes the moment feel very special. The family sits down together. The hot soup is served in bowls, smelling of garlic and herbs. The pancakes are stacked high on a plate, warm and golden, even if they were made on a camping stove. They also have some fresh bread they bought earlier. They didn't need the oven for that.
It sounds like an absolute feast. A feast is a large, delicious meal, usually shared by many people to celebrate something. Even though this meal was made during a power outage with simple tools, it feels like a real feast because they worked so hard together to make it happen. They all raised their water cups to make a toast. To make a toast means to raise your drink and say a few kind or cheerful words to celebrate an event or thank people before you drink.
And Leo says, to the best power outage ever. Everyone laughs and clinks their glasses together. They start to eat, and they realize something amazing. Without the television playing in the background, without anyone looking at their mobile phones because they are saving their battery, and without any bright lights, they are actually talking more than usual. They are sharing stories, listening closely, and laughing at the shadows on the wall.
That is a beautiful point, Alex. Sometimes technology can distract us from the people right in front of us. The power outage forced them to disconnect from the digital world and truly connect with each other. It is a wonderful reminder of what is really important. They are fully present in the moment. To be present means to focus all your attention on what is happening right now, rather than worrying about the past or the future.
That is so true, Hannah. They eat slowly, enjoying every single bite of the soup and the pancakes. They even play a word game by candlelight. Toby says it is the best dinner he has had in a long time. Eventually, just as they are finishing their dessert, there is a loud beep from the kitchen. The refrigerator hums back to life. The ceiling light suddenly flashes on bright and white.
Oh no, the electricity is back. You would think they would be happy, but how do they actually react, Alex?
Well, surprisingly, they all blink at the bright light and say, "Aww." They actually miss the dark. It is too bright now. So Maya jumps up, runs to the light switch, and turns it right back off. They decide to finish their evening in the warm, cozy candlelight, enjoying the quiet a little bit longer.
I love that ending. It shows that sometimes unexpected problems can turn into our favorite memories if we have the right attitude and a little bit of creativity. Now, let's do a quick recap of some of the great vocabulary we learned in today's episode. We talked about a power outage, which is when the electricity goes away. We also learned to adapt, which means to change your behavior to fit a new situation.
We also had impromptu, meaning something done without preparation or planning, like their impromptu candlelit dinner. We learned the verb to simmer, which means to cook food gently just below the boiling point. We also discussed taking turns, which means sharing a task so everyone does it one after the other. And finally, we talked about cozy, that lovely feeling of being warm, comfortable, and safe.
These are such useful everyday words, and using stories is a fantastic way to remember them. I hope our listeners can try using at least one or two of these words in their own English conversations this week. Maybe you can describe a cozy corner in your house, or talk about a time you had to adapt to a sudden change.
That is a great challenge for everyone. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Easy English Podcast. Thank you so much for listening and sharing this cozy story with us. Keep practicing your English, stay curious, and we will see you next time.